أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن سادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Today is all good. Got the energetic salams and everything. That's what I like. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Normally we usually have this class at 7 o'clock, but we moved it up early because we have some things we like to tend to before Margaret comes in, inshallah. In any case, this is our Adab class. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Habibi, Sister Samira. She's watching online. She ain't gonna be here. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. You know, she's one of them, out of all the years I've been teaching, 20 plus years, she's like my top student. It's a barakah when you can marry your top student. Alhamdulillah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Durraki, alhamdulillah. Zaki, Allahu Akbar. That's what I'm talking about. That Philly, AC, everybody in the building. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah. Man, this is our Adab class. Adab, as we know, refers to the conduct or the way that we're supposed to interact with one another. Or just the way we're supposed to be or interact in general. And for the purposes of this Adab class, or Adab class, we are going through the book Akhlaq al-Mustafa, which means the character of the chosen one, meaning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have not gotten far in the book. This is our third class. We had an introduction, the second class where we got into, we haven't even completed the first sentence. And this is the third class, and we didn't finish the last class. So the author, who is Abdullahi ibn Muhammad, known as Dan Fodio, is who? Who is he?
Brother.
The brother of? Said Imam Dan Fodio. Belovedly known to those who know and love him as a Shaykh. Which is what language? Hausa for what? What does Shaykh mean in Hausa? Sheikh.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
I mean, they say it in Africa like how they say shehu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy because it sounds alike. Sheikh. Alhamdulillah. So this is the younger brother of the Shaykh, and like the scholar of the Jamaa'ah. He says in a book, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. فهذه أخلاق المصطفى فمن اقتداه فيها سفى كان عليه السلام أعلم الناس وأروع الناس. And we stop there. We haven't gotten past there, which means in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, all praises belongs to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Blessings and peace be upon the master of the messengers and upon all of his family and companions. As to what follows, this is the book called The Character of the Chosen One. Whoever follows him in it will be purified, meaning whoever follows or imitates his character will be purified. And then he said, he was the most knowledgeable of people and most cautious of people. Right? And we haven't even gotten past that. We spent a lot of time last week talking about why, how scholars write, and how there's a tartib, there's a methodology, there's an order in how they write. And there's no accident that this Sheikh mentioned he was the most knowledgeable of people first. He mentioned knowledge first. And so we're going to finish up where we left off last week. Alhamdulillah. He was the most knowledgeable of people. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. And first, one of the things that we mentioned last week was that seeking knowledge is not just for aspiring scholars. Seeking knowledge is not just for scholars. Once again, seeking knowledge is not only for scholars. Seeking knowledge is for all Muslims. And this is a point that has to be driven home over and over and over again. Because in this day and time, during this age, when you hear that someone's a student of knowledge, or someone's a seeker of knowledge, or someone, is going after knowledge in some shape, form, or fashion, we automatically understand from that, or think, or assume from that that person is trying to be a scholar. Alhamdulillah, we got our brother Muhammad, our brother Satima, watching from the Gambia. See, we international up in this place. Alhamdulillah. Got our brother Amin, Muhammad Maliki from Philadelphia, by way of Chi-Town watching. Allahu Akbar. What is it?
It's kind of living in West Africa now.
Yeah, they 5 hours ahead of us. Alhamdulillah. You know Sheikh Muhammad Rami, right?
No.
This is his man back home in Gambia.
Okay.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. May Allah protect and preserve him. Very good brother. Alhamdulillah. When we first went to Gambia, he's the one that took care of all of our needs and facilitated everything for us. Alhamdulillah. Because the Sheikh was still here in America when we went the first time. It was that brother who was taking care of us. Alhamdulillah. We were saying that knowledge is just not for scholars. There's a minimum level of knowledge that all Muslims have to have. And being ignorant and being a Muslim is like oil and water. It don't mix. This deen is based upon knowledge. The first thing that was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ was Iqra, which means read. This deen is based upon knowledge. And I always say, I'm not trying to be humble or anything like that. We know from many different sound hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that as we get closer to the sa'ah, to the hour, to the day of judgment, knowledge is going to be decreasing. Right? Knowledge is going to be decreasing. Even in my own short lifetime. And I'm not saying this to be humble, I'm just stating the facts. A lot of people consider me knowledgeable. When I first took Shahada, a little bit over 25 years ago, I was just a regular Muslim. My level of knowledge. My level of knowledge is nothing. And so, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, I can see even during my lifetime how someone with my level is being elevated. You know what I understand? Where, back when I first took Shahada, I was a regular dude. I was learning what everybody else learned. And it's amazing, most of the stuff I teach is stuff I learned 20 years ago. And it's amazing that the people who practice in Islam now don't know it. Things that I learned as a new Shahada, people that have been Muslim 10, 15 years don't know it now. So you can even see during our own lifetime, forget the span of the ummah, but from our lifetime, how knowledge is decreasing. The bar is getting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Yeah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Qul hal yastawi alladhina ya'lamuna walladhina la ya'lamun." This is Surah Zumar, Surah number 39, verse number 9. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Say, are they the same, those who know and those who do not know?" Are they the same, those who know and those who don't know? This is like a rhetorical question. Obviously, they're not the same. Like the answer is obvious. In a well-known hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muawiyah qala Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam yaqulu man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi din. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, as it was narrated to us on the authority of Muawiyah, that, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever Allah desires good for, He gives him an understanding of the deen. It's amazing. It didn't cross my mind until I just read it. But you know what month this is? Say it again. Say it out. Muharram. What happened in the month of Muharram? Why is the month of Muharram special?
We have Ashura.
Ashura. Ashura is the 10th of Muharram. What else is the month of Muharram known for?
First month of the Islamic calendar.
First month of the Islamic calendar. What do Muslims do on the month of Ashura? On the day of Ashura, which is the 10th of Muharram?
We fast a couple of days.
Yeah, we fast. Did anybody remember any hadith related to that?
Yeah, something to do with Musa alayhi salatu wasalam fleeing from Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam got to Medina, he found that the Jews were fasting on the 10th of Muharram, which is called Ashura. And he asked, why are you fasting? They said, we're commemorating how Allah saved Musa from Pharaoh. And so that we fast to commemorate this. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ahaku Musa minka. We have more right over Musa than you do. And so this is why we fast during the day of Ashura, and we add a day to a day before or a day after or both, just to be different from the Jews. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if I, next year I'm going to add a day to it and fast, but the narrator say he didn't live to practice that. But why else is Muharram, the month of Muharram, famous? Something very big in history happened, in Islamic history. I mentioned the name, Imam al-Hussein. You know who he is?
Grandson of Rasulullah.
The grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
He got killed in Iraq.
He was killed in Iraq. He was killed in Iraq. Very sad day in Islamic history. One of the flowers of the people of Jannah, one of the youth of the people of Jannah, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam described him. He, for lack of better words, was tricked into coming to Iraq, and the people claimed to support him and his leadership, and they abandoned him when the armies of Hajjaj and Bani Umayyah came. My top student says Karbala. That's the incident, because that's where it took place at. And he was slaughtered down, him and his family killed. This is the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'm really digressing, and you'll see I'm building up to the point why I mentioned this. Now, in 2018, the Islamic Hijrah of 1440, the month of Muharram comes around, and you find more that people talk about this incident and its implications and its ramifications more than they talk about what the Prophet ﷺ said about it and why we should fast. Are you following me? So you find most modern Muslims who are not grounded in Islamic history and the reasons why we do things, they know more details about what happened at Karbala than they know about what we just mentioned about why we should fast on the 10th of Ashura, on the 10th of Muharram. And so the people who claim to love and follow the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who are called Shia now, they have a lot of rituals and things that they do commemorating themselves. You go on Google or YouTube and you find them beating and torturing themselves. They're commemorating this fact. And like some of the scholars say, it's actually a show of guilt because, historically, you invited the Imam, the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, out there and you claim to support him against the oppressors, but you didn't do it. And you left him and his family out there to die all by themselves. Right? So, this is what some of them do. Now you have some people amongst us, you have a lot of what we call like cross-pollination. You know what cross-pollination is? Can somebody explain it?
I believe it's when two things mix to form something new.
Yeah, you got like the stuff from one flower, pollinates another flower, it can birth another flower. On the watch that they cut themselves all bloody, exactly. Now, just to go back, Islamic, so you can understand what's going on. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed, and subhanAllah, I didn't even intend on getting into all of this, but we have to because it's the time. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed, Abu Bakr became the Khalifa, right? No problem. Before he passed, he made part of his will that Umar become the Khalifa after him. So that Umar became the Khalifa, the leader of the Muslims. When Umar was on his deathbed, he formulated a committee out of those who were amongst the 10 Sahaba who were promised paradise, those who were still living. He made a committee out of them, a shura committee out of them, and added his son, Abdullah ibn Umar, to be part of that committee because it was an even number. I believe 8, right? No, probably about 6. About 6 of them, right? And so if there was to take a vote and it'd be 3 and 3, they needed a tiebreaker. So he added his son, Abdullah ibn Umar, to be the tiebreaker. But he also made it a condition that his son can't be the Khalifa. And so they all basically like, I don't want to be Khalifa, I don't want to be Khalifa. And I forgot which one of them they left the decision to, but after some consultation and some questioning, that Sahaba, who I can't remember, it might have been Abdurrahman ibn Auf, that's the name that's coming to my mind, he chose Uthman ibn Affan to be the Khalifa. Now, in order for any of this to make sense, you have to understand the old Jahiliyyah beef, the old days of ignorance, the beef within the tribe of Quraysh. The Prophet's tribe is Bani Hashim, the sons of Hashim. Abu Sufyan's tribe is Bani Umayyah, the sons of Umayyah. These two tribes, these two clans within the tribe of Quraysh, they always have beef with each other for a long time. If you go back to your early Sirah class and you talk about, the establishment of the Quraysh and, and all of that stuff, you remember how that beef got started. In any case, when Uthman became the Khalifa, a Jew took Shahada from Yemen. His name is Abdullah ibn Saba. Abdullah ibn Saba came to Medina because he was a big rabbi, a big sheikh amongst the Jews. He expected some shine. I mean, you can relate this to any entertainer or anything like that, who's trying to get on. When he get in the audience of Uthman, just gives him a greeting, meets him, good, alhamdulillah, nice meeting you. Next, right, and he took it personally, like, you're not giving me my props. I was a man. I'm Muslim now. I expect to still be the man, to still be recognized. So this person went back to Yemen and he began to plant seeds of dissent amongst these new, because you gotta understand, these are new Muslims. We're not even talking, Abu Bakr ruled for 2.5 years, or Umar ruled for 10 years. Umar ruled for 10 years. So you're talking about a little over 12, 13 years after the Prophet ﷺ died. And most of these people didn't become Muslim until the late period of Abu Bakr's Khalifa and definitely during the time of Umar's Khalifa. So these are new shahadas. We've been Muslim longer than some of these people, right? And so this person, Abdullah ibn Saba, is planting all of these seeds, talking about, Uthman is from, Bani Umayyah. They fought against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam all this time. And, he just made a whole list of slanders against Uthman. He's a coward. He didn't even fight at the Battle of Badr. He doing it. He taking all the money, and giving it to his family, right? He put all his family in positions of power. These are some of the slanders he's making up. Half of the people that is in power that he's referring to, Umar put them in power, right? But if you ignorant, the one-man king is the one-eyed man is the king, right? So you make all these lists of slanders, and he will go around propagating this, all inspired because Uthman didn't appoint him to no special position, didn't treat him like anyone special. And it's amazing because most of Uthman's Khilafah was a period of prosperity. But it is amazing because it's amazing about Allah's decree, but it's amazing what Allah uses to cause His decree to kick in, if I can word it that way. Anybody know what that outward cause was?
As far as the benefit, or as far as
like his Khalifa was peaceful, and all of this fitna came out like in the last period.
well, did they say that the fitna would come once the door is broken or something like
Yeah,
that?
but I'm not talking about
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll give you a hint. It's mentioned in the Jamaa'ah of the Tournament.
Justice.
Hmm?
Sorry. I would say justice, but go ahead.
Maybe I'm not asking the question right. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we all know, had a khatam. He had a ring, right? And this ring had on it Allah, Rasul, Muhammad on it. And he would use it, first he would wear it, and then he stopped wearing it and just would use it to seal or imprint, letters that was written from him. And after he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, passed, the caliphs after him used to use that same ring to put the seal letters. When Abu Bakr wrote a letter, he would use the Prophet's ring to seal it. And there was a Sahaba who would keep the ring. That was his job, the official ring keeper. So Uthman, he was using the ring to send off a letter. And he sat by a well to pass it back to the Sahaba who would normally keep the ring. This is amazing now. And when he went to pass him the ring fell in the well. And Uthman had people go in the well looking for the ring. Nobody could find it. The scholars say that the fitna that Uthman had with him and his leadership started from that day. SubhanAllah. It started from that day, literally. So, all of these things that I mentioned, the slander about him, was getting around it. Uthman, it's been recorded, Uthman even gave khutbahs defending himself. They say, he's stealing money from Baitul Mal, and he's giving it to his family. And Uthman was like, well, I got money, I'm rich. The money I'm giving him is my personal money, it's not from Baitul Mal. He gave a khutbah explaining all of this, right? Like they said, he's a coward, he didn't fight at the Battle of Badr. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him not to fight at the Battle of Badr because his daughter, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's daughter, was on her deathbed. Uthman was her husband, and he told him to stay behind and take care of my daughter, right? And that's why even though he didn't physically fight at the Battle of Badr, he gets a portion of the spoils of war and everything. And he's counted amongst the people who fought at Badr, even though he didn't fight. Right? But you see how the little lies and slander, how, it got a little bit of truth to it, but you twist it out. Oh, he didn't fight at Badr. Oh, because he's scared, he coward. Oh, look at that. Right? So these kind of things is being said about Uthman ibn Affan. And the point is, Abdullah ibn Saba, he got followers and supporters in Egypt. Egypt and Yemen. Remember, these people just newly became Muslim. They don't know. And so, these people raided, these people raided Uthman's house, and he got killed while he was reciting the Quran. Right? One part of the slander that Abdullah ibn Saba brought out was that Ali should have been the Khalifa, because he's from the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He supported him from day one. Uthman's family fought Islam from day one and didn't take Shahada until, the conquest of Mecca. Even though Uthman was Muslim almost from day one, he became Muslim on the dawah of Abu Bakr. So, but in any case, he planted the seeds for all of this stuff. And so, when Uthman was assassinated, they reformulated that same committee that appointed Uthman to be the Khalifa, and they made Ali the Khalifa. Go ahead.
So I was listening to something on YouTube last night, and they were talking about this. Now I don't know if it was before or after, and correct me if I'm wrong. They were saying that someone ordered for someone to kill these group of people. I think it was that one person was a part of the Jewish dude who became Muslim, and he got away.
He did get away. Ali is the one who ordered that they be killed,
Okay.
because that whole them seeds he planted morphed into what we now call the Shia. But I don't want to get too much in detail. I'm just trying to give you get to the whole reason why I mentioned all of that, because two groups formed when Ali became the Khalifa. Because when Ali became the Khalifa, some people made demands on Ali. You need to get at the ones who killed Uthman. And Ali was like, no, we got to restore order first. We don't know who killed Uthman. I'm going to kill Uthman when everything's all chaotic and we don't even know who killed Uthman. And so some people was like, well, I'm not going to accept your leadership until you first find out who killed Uthman. One of those people was Muawiyah. Muawiyah became Muslim at the same time his father did. Who was his father?
Muawiyah? Who's Muawiyah's father? That one leader, not Sufyan, who was Sufyan?
Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan is his father.
I was here, I said.
What's that?
One of my families. I was here, I wasn't here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're right.
I
Busted.
The father's name again?
Abu Sufyan. You all know Abu Sufyan, right? He took Shahada at the conquest of Mecca. And Muawiyah became Muslim at the same time. Muawiyah became a scribe of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to write down Revelation. So Ali becomes the Khalifa. Okay.
I was wondering if you was any of those individuals, or if any of those individuals who I guess lack of a better term, sided against the Khalifa for not avenging the death of do you know if like a lot of or the majority of those individuals were at that bay'ah where they swore that they would avenge Umar? I mean, not Umar, Uthman.
Hudaybiyah?
Yeah.
Huh.
Or a lot of those individuals. I was just thinking, I didn't know if that.
It's amazing that you mention that, because there's a big connection between those two events. Your specific question, yes. But there's a big connection between that, because number one, Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, rose up against Ali. Talha, Zubair, these are companions that's promised paradise. And that's why they call it the first fitna. Because fitna, everything ain't black and white. You know, we use the word fitna to mean trouble or problem. And the more correct word to use is mushkila, right? Or mishkila, right? But we use the word fitna. Oh, you a fitna. You know, if you the fitna, it's clear. You the problem, right? Real fitna, you don't really know who's right and who's wrong. It's like it's not clear, right? And so that's what it was for the Sahaba. So you got all of these new people that gassed up this beef that made 2 and 3 groups of Muslims, and it's Sahaba in 2 of these groups that's fighting against each other. And the Prophet ﷺ foretold the event. But like he was talking one time to a group of his wives, and he said, "Don't let me find out that one of y'all." I can't remember the exact words, but it's mentioned in the Shifat Qadiyat. I think it's mentioned in Ta'lim al-Anam too by Abdullah Danfodio. And he mentioned the dogs of this town barking at him.
Taiba, I think.
I can't remember. But I think it was Salama, because when Aisha got on her camel to ride out against Ali, I think it was the Prophet's other wife, Salama, that wrote her letter, "Please, Aisha, don't do that. That's not your business. Stay out of it." And she went to ride out, and then she didn't get reminded of what was happening because she went by this town and heard some dogs barking, and it was like, "Where we at?" The town we can't remember. Then she remembered the hadith. Then she fell back, and then Ali put Aisha on a camel and sent her back to Medina, without causing any harm to her. And they call it the Battle of Siffin, the battle of the camel, the battle of the Jamaa'ah, the battle of the camel, right? And a lot of people blame him for not fighting against Aisha and killing her, right? I'm trying to keep it because there's a whole lot of ways I could go with this, right? But we're trying to stay here, right? Ali becomes a Khalifa. Ali gets assassinated by the Khawarij, which is the third group I was alluding to, right? Ali gets assassinated by the Khawarij. His son Al-Hassan, who I named my son after, right? He becomes a Khalifa. When, after about 6 months, Al-Hassan, he works out an agreement with Muawiyah to stop the fitna, right? And so he peacefully turns over the Khilafah to Muawiyah. And I think it was the first class or the second class, I mentioned that hadith, because we were talking about the word Sayyid, master, where the Prophet ﷺ said, "This son of mine is a Sayyid. Allah will use him to make peace between 2 contending parties of Muslims." That hadith is actually a prophecy. He was talking about Imam al-Hassan, his grandson, right? And he was talking about this fitna, this event where, you had basically Ali and Muawiyah fighting against each other, and Al-Hassan inherited that beef, and then so they negotiated, and then Al-Hassan, he peacefully gave up the Khilafah to Muawiyah. And so all the Sahaba and the scholars recognize that was the manifestation or the fulfillment of that prophecy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we mentioned that hadith when we were talking about the word Sayyid, because he used the word Sayyid. Had ibn Sayyid, this son of mine is a Sayyid. But
How many years did Ali and Uthman rule? Ali and Uthman, Sayyidina Ali, Uthman?
do the math for me. Abu Bakr 2 and that for the total years for all 5 of them is 30. Exactly, 30 to the day, right? Abu Bakr, take away 2.5 from that.
Say Abu Bakr 4 years?
I said 2.5.
2.5?
Right? Umar 10. Uthman 13. Hassan 6 months. Listen, Hassan 6 months. Whatever's left over is Ali, because I don't remember the exact number for Ali. Abu Bakr 2.5, Umar 10, Uthman 13, Hassan 6 months. So whatever's left, that's how long Ali ruled. I just don't remember. That's why I said do the math for me. I remember the length of everybody else. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Al-Hassan. I don't remember how long Ali ruled. So
4 years.
4 years. SubhanAllah. And we know that they ruled for exactly 30 years because there's a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said that the Khulafa will last 30 sana. It will last 30 years. Then after that, it will be Muqan Adam. It will be oppressive kingship. Now, after Al-Hassan Khilafat, Muawiyah becomes the Caliph. He's from, as we said earlier, Bani Umayyah. They call it the Umayyad dynasty when they anglicize it, the Umayyad dynasty. When Muawiyah rules, and then his son Yazid takes over, right? And most people don't have a lot of good things to say about Yazid, right? Because he was the one that was in charge when the Prophet's grandson Hussein was killed, Karbala, while we're talking about it. And the reason why I mentioned all of this history, which took us off, right? The reason why I mentioned all of this, alhamdulillah, my wife said 4 years, just like you did. The reason why I mentioned all of this, because a lot of people, a lot of so-called Sunnis, they curse Yazid, and they say he was a kafir, and there's some disagreement about that, but it's agreement. I don't think anybody would argue with regards to his character and the stuff he used to do. A lot of them, they extend that curse to Muawiyah, his father, right? And some of them curse Muawiyah. You'll find some Muslims that won't say radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And this is a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They won't say may Allah be pleased with him. Some of them.
Not to say?
No, you should say it. You know, Imam Bukhari didn't find nothing wrong with his character. The hadith we quoted is the Sahih Bukhari. This hadith we mentioned, "Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi din," Muawiyah narrated, and it's in Bukhari, in the Book of Knowledge. But he's a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was pleased with Muawiyah at his death. He made the way Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, the way the Sunni community looks at Muawiyah, we look at the Sahaba, their technical rank. When you have ranks like in scholarship, their technical rank is mujtahid. They're like the highest rank of scholar. Even though we know all of the Sahaba weren't scholars, but technically, when we're talking technically from a fiqh perspective, the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're mujtahid scholars. When a mujtahid scholar makes an ijtihad, when he makes a legal decision, he gets one reward if he's wrong, and he gets 2 rewards if he's right. The popular mujtahid imam, just because I know a lot of y'all don't know this terminology, example of a mujtahid imam is like 4 imams. But all of the Sahaba have that rank, even the quote-unquote non-scholars from amongst them, right? Muawiyah, he had his legal reasoning for rising up against Ali. He was wrong, but he had his proof misunderstood from the Quran and Sunnah from doing what he did. And inside that beef was the beef of Aisha against Ali. In that situation, you know, she was also wrong. And she later on recognized she was wrong and fell back. And there was a lot of Sahaba who was riding with Aisha. There was a lot of Sahaba who was riding with Ali. There was a lot of Sahaba who were riding with Muawiyah. The reason why I digressed and I did all of that, because I narrated this hadith and it dawned on me that Muawiyah narrated it. And we in the month of Muharram, so you're going to be hearing a lot of stuff. So I thought I'd be doing it injustice by not mentioning it.
Just one thing I just want to mention, well, it was explained to me that usually anytime you mention the great fitna or what have you, a lot of times it's good to explain that it wasn't that the Sahaba hated each other.
Exactly.
Even though they fought, and they would, as Sheikh Hamza had mentioned, they would fight like during the day or whatever, and then roll out like this huge thing that you eat on.
Yeah,
from one camp to the other. You know what I'm saying? So they would still eat together. So I mean, that it wasn't like a beef like they hated each other and all that other
That's
stuff.
100% correct.
So that's like just a disagreement, but they still come back.
Yeah. And that's 100% correct, because when you let outsiders explain what happened, that's the way they push it. They was all fighting for power after the death of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and that's where they twisted.
I still can't get it when you said someone said they should have killed Aisha.
Yeah, it was the Khawarij that said that.
Oh, it was one of the
No, it was the Khawarij, like the first deviant group in Islam. And there was a debate between the Khawarij and Ali, and that was part of the debate. Ali had sent Abdullah ibn Abbas to represent him in that debate against him. But that's in a whole other side topic. Because one of their problems against him is that he didn't take prisoners of war in that battle. And then Abdullah ibn Abbas was like, you like to take your mother as a prisoner of war? You know, prisoner of war, that's a concubine, you can all have. And then he quoted the hadith like the wives of the prophets are the wives of the prophet are the mothers of the believers. Which one of you would like to take your mother as a concubine? Abdullah ibn Abbas, right? You know, and there's a lot of detail about this in Sahih Muslim, in the book of Zakat. There's a whole subsection on the Khawarij, and it mentions all of this in there, right? So, but that's the whole reason why I mentioned that. Not that it necessarily had to do with our topic today, but it's the month of Muharram. A lot of that talk is going around, and so when you hear it, you need to know Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah's, position on it. Don't get caught up, because you have a lot of people who are Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or at least they claim that, but a lot of their sentiments are actually from the Rawafidah, or the so-called Shiites, the people who abandoned Imam al-Hassan, the people who abandoned the family of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so they exaggerate in their love of the family of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to such an extent that they even curse some of his companions. And all of us should love the family of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But that love of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam doesn't make us curse those whom Allah, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, was pleased with when he died.
Hassan, was he still the Khalifa when he moved to Iraq?
It was fragmented. There were some people who gave him bay'ah. Hussein. Okay. Some people had gave him bay'ah and supported him in Iraq. That's why he went to Iraq. When he got, it was like a setup to make you understand it. That's just like we all selling drugs, right? Audu billah. Hypothetical. Right? There's no drug here, right? We got Muslims in the masjid, because you got people, right? They'll take a clip of the video, like, Imam Naeem is advocating selling drugs in the masjid. Right? Just imagine we all selling drugs, right? Right? We all from Lama, right? You live up on the hill. I'm point two up. You live up on the hill, you're like, nah, man. I'm from the Mon Valley, right? Come out to Braddock and scramble out there. I know some people out there, right? All right, cool, yeah. Yo, stuck on the move fast. You might want to bring a whole brick with you, right? So I get way out to Braddock, right? Where the brother at? Supposed to be selling drugs. All I hear is pistols cocking over the right? You know what it is. Get out later, right? Right. That's kind of like what they did to him. But, not out of, I think there's a big lesson in that. Because they didn't do it maybe for the same niyat, like to rob me in my make-believe scenario. But there's a lot of people who are gung-ho. We know you on the truth. We know you on the we support you, right? Yeah. And then as soon as it's time to put in that work. And other Sahaba advised Imam Hassan Imam Hussein not to go. Don't do it. We know the people of Iraq, they talk that stuff, but they ain't gonna ride with you. Don't go. And I've experienced this several times in my life. That's why a lot of times I don't move so quick on certain stuff. Because a lot of people come with that gung-ho, rah, rah, come on, let's do it. Man, let's have 10 classes a day. Let's do this, let's do that. And let's go give out dawah to everybody on the street every day. And let's go, right? People get that, they get all hyped and stuff, right? And if you get hyped because of their energy, you'll be the only one standing there when it's time to do it, right? Because people will fall back, they find excuses not to come. This is what they did to Imam Hussein. They said, we'll support you, we'll give you bayat, blah, blah, blah. So he came out there with his family, and when Yazid's army heard that, so they gave Imam Hussein bayat, and they supported him, he rounded up his army and started rolling on them. And they was like, whoa, yo, they got a deep over there. Nah, we cool. Nah, you got that. I know we said we gonna support you, but we didn't know they was gonna come like that. Man. We cool. And he got massacred out. So there's a big lesson in that. Okay, so back to knowledge, right? We mentioned this hadith where Muawiyah is the narrator. He who Allah intends good for, he gives him an understanding of the deen, right? He who Allah wants good for, man yuridillahu bihi khayran. He who Allah wants good for, he gives him an understanding of the deen. The scary part about that is if you flip that statement around. Because the opposite of this statement is true as well. If Allah doesn't want good for you, He prevents you from understanding the deen. We seek refuge from being amongst that group where Allah prevents us from having knowledge and understanding of the deen. It's even our Hassan, he mentioned last week where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Khaslatani la tajtami'ani fil munafiq." Two character traits cannot come together in the hypocrite. Husnul khaliq wa fiqhun fi deen. Good character and understanding of the deen. Like a hypocrite, full-blown hypocrite. He can have good character, but he'll be ignorant of the deen completely. Or he can have a lot of knowledge and understanding of the deen, but his character is going to stink. Meaning you won't want to be around him. You're going to bring a whole lot of dark energy, even though he got all this knowledge. Or he can have neither, but he can't have both. Right? So, knowledge is extremely important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْأُلُوا أَهْلُ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of the reminder if you do not know. And this is Surah Nahl, verse number 43. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلُ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of the reminder. Allah does not say ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. The Shaykh speaks a lot about this in more than one of his books. In his book Siraj al-Ikhwan, he says, "O brothers, the distinction between the scholars of the deen, the people of the reminder," that word, Ahlul Dhikr, and the helpers of the merciful, and between the evil scholars, the people of heedlessness, and the helpers of the devil, are two. They are anyone who gathers in himself two descriptions, knowledge and taqwa. In that case, he is among the scholars of the religion, the people of the reminder, Ahlul Dhikr, that word again, and the helpers of the merciful. However, whoever has not gathered in himself these two descriptions is among the evil scholars, the people of heedlessness, and the helpers of the shaitan. So when Allah says, ask the people of the reminder if you don't know, it doesn't, because a lot of people, when they mention this, they usually just loosely translate it, ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. That's not a good translation, and that's not, in fact, not the translation. If you don't know something, you shouldn't only ask the one who has the knowledge, but that person should also have taqwa. What's taqwa?
Conscious of Allah.
Conscious of Allah. What else?
To avoid that which Allah has prohibited and joined.
To avoid that which Allah has prohibited and act upon that which Allah has commanded. In other words, you want to find someone that not only has knowledge, but his action, his practice is equivalent to the knowledge he has. Man, as much as I talk about how that mean, What would you think about me if you see me coming out of McDonald's with a Big Mac?
I snapped it on the picture.
Yeah?
That the next video is gonna be fire.
Yeah.
Like the sheikh from South Africa. He wanted to get his student out of the club, so they saw the sheikh coming out of the club. So he said, oh, the sheikh was hanging out.
Yeah. So the one you take, you know, and it's about anyway. He's going. Alhamdulillah. And Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم طالب العلم فريدة على كل مسلم. رواه Ibn Majah. Alhamdulillah, stay away from prohibition. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Bashir. Alhamdulillah. Anas ibn Malik, who is that?
Son of Imam Malik.
And Anas ibn Malik is a Sahaba, right? He was a young Sahaba. He was the young man whose mother brought him to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "This is my son. He is your servant." And so he has the rank of being a Khadim al-Rasul, the servant of the Messenger of Allah. And that's the light that Sheikh Ahmed Bamba takes from, because his nickname is Khadim al-Rasul. Not to get too spiritual on y'all, but when you always talk about souls and spirits being connected, all of the Muslim, we inherit our lights from one of the Sahaba, who inherit their lights from one of the Anbiya, right? And so one of the connections on the spiritual level between the well-known West African Sheikh Ahmed Bamba is through Anas ibn Malik. Anas ibn Malik, he served the Prophet ﷺ for 10 years, the whole period that he was in Medina.
No.
He narrates the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Talibul ilm faridatu ala kulli Muslim." Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. In this hadith, it says al-ilm, the knowledge. It's ma'arifa. It's definite. So this hadith is talking about a specific type of knowledge. This hadith is talking about a specific type of knowledge. A lot of people use this hadith to try to explain or even encourage, just seeking knowledge in general. And the intent may be good and pure, but it's kind of like using the hadith out of context. The knowledge that the Prophet ﷺ is speaking about is the fara'id, the individual obligations. The type of knowledge that is required for you to perform the obligations that are also obligatory for you. So if you have to make purification for worship or ibadah, that's part of your fara'id. It also includes even some knowledges that may be fard kifaya. Those are communal obligations, or like, for example, if you're married, there's some knowledge that you need to have with regards to marriage. Al-ilm, al-imam al-amal. The knowledge is the imam of action. It's supposed to go in front and ahead of not action. It's not cool to do something, doing it in ignorance. Just Bismillah. No, you're supposed to seek knowledge ahead of time.
So you said knowledge is the leader of action.
Right.
So that's narrated by Rasul.
I heard that, but I haven't seen the exact reference. So I'll just say the scholars say that.
So for the clarify, because I thought it was Rasul too.
Yes. Wa alaikum salam to that. I've heard that, but every place I heard it from, I never seen a source for it, so I'm not going to attribute it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so we mention this just again to show how seeking knowledge is obligatory, and it's not only for someone that's trying to become a scholar. What time y'all got?
7:20.
Another big misunderstanding or misconception about knowledge is that we have most of us really, we have like a Christian understanding of knowledge. I don't really say Christian, a Judeo-Christian understanding of knowledge, right? It's not really from Islam. When we think about scholars and who is qualified to teach, we really actually borrowed and Islamicized a Christian Judeo understanding of that. Because most of us, we think, okay, what's a scholar? Or someone who went somewhere and studied all these long years under this or that reputable institution or reputable scholar, etc., etc., etc. Right? But more in line with the Islamic understanding or concept of knowledge is the each one teach one. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ballighu anni walau ayya." Relate for me even if it's one verse, one ayah. And in that same vein, the Shehu, in his book called Ihya Sunnah, he said, "Kullu man ta'allama mas'alatan wahidatan fahuwa min ahli al-ilmi biha. فعليه أن يعرفها إن كانت من فروض الأعيان وإلا كان شريكا له في الإثم." He said, whoever has learned a single issue is one of the learned ones, alim biha, is one of the scholars in it. In other words, if you learn one thing, one mas'ala, just one thing, not a whole bunch of things, you're a scholar, an alim, in that one thing. You see the difference? Like the way a lot of us think, okay, you know that one thing, you're still nothing until you learn a million other things for 20 years. That's not Islamic understanding. Islamic understanding is, okay, you learn that one thing, you learn it with Islam, with reputable, source and everything like that. You're a scholar of that one thing. And he continues, he says, thus it is obligatory upon him to teach it to others, that one thing. If it is one of the individually obligatory duties. Otherwise, he will have a share of the sin. Each one teach one. Right? So, you learn one thing. It's obligatory upon you to teach that one thing. Especially if it's the fard iron, if it makes a part of the fard iron. And if you don't do that, you inherit a sin for not teaching it. You see how they empower the people? See, a lot of us are trying to Christianize Islamic knowledge. They're trying to make a separate group, a clan, a tribe of scholars. They're trying to create a hierarchy. And it's not really like a hierarchy in that sense. All of us, even the highest level of scholars, should be involved in some teaching and some learning. None of us stop learning and none of us should stop teaching. And you can break this down even to your household. If a husband is teaching the wife, the husband shouldn't also have to teach the children. And if there's older children and younger children, the parents shouldn't have to be teaching the younger children. Maybe the older children should teach the younger children. Everybody is involved in the learning and the teaching. And when you go to Quran schools, you find the same thing. The sheikh of the Quran school, he isn't teaching Alif Bata, he ain't teaching Juz Amma. His senior students is teaching the less senior students. And the less senior students are teaching the less senior students. Everybody's involved in the learning and the teaching. The students who are not Hufad yet, they're learning and they're teaching younger students. And the learning teaching model helps cement the knowledge you already have. So I want to end off on one thing. I mentioned last week Bidadu bin Lama. Who was that?
Idado what?
Bidadu.
Idado, who was he? He was a mayor of Wando, I think, or I'm sorry, the husband of Nana Asma.
Nana Asma, husband of Nana Asma. And he was like the chief wazir.
What's the name of their place now?
Bidadu.
Idadu?
Ibn Lama. He wrote a book where he talked about some outstanding character traits of the Sheikh and his Jamaa'ah. And because I went over time on that, I'm gonna just read something. I'm gonna read in English, and I'm mentioning these things for a reason. He said, "As for what has honored his Jamaa'ah with praiseworthy traits due to him, they are innumerable." He's talking about the praiseworthy characteristics of our Jamaa'ah, right? Because we're not living there in this time, but we in this Jamaa'ah, right? However, their fundamental traits were these four, which we will mention, and they encompass all other praiseworthy traits. And they and it really is made up of Allah stopping them at choosing four praiseworthy character traits over four blameworthy things. And by means of these choices, Allah rectified the affairs of their dunya and their hereafter, right? He said, number one, the first of these is that they chose the hereafter over the worldly affairs. In other words, they chose the hereafter over the worldly affairs. And how did they do this? Because each one of them made hijrah to him, meaning the Shaykh, desiring by that the next life. And they did not give any consideration to the loss of homeland, family, or neighbors, and even if they were from the people of rank and wealth. And this is a major thing that I see in this time, where people make, when they decide to move from one city to the next, or one state to the next, or one country to the next, most of the times, even in my short period of time of Islam, right? When I took Shahada and when I became part of the Muslim community, you didn't really hear too much, at least the city I was from, you didn't hear a lot of people moving from one city to the next or one state to the next unless it was connected with deen. People wasn't moving because their job moved or whatever like that. You know, they were moving because there's a Muslim community over there, I checked them out and I'm trying to get with them. You know, and I'm talking about the time period when there was no quote-unquote Salafis until when they got strong. So during my time period, you found a whole lot of people moving, for example, from New York City to East Orange, because they understood that to be the deen. That's where the deen's at, that's where we go. They wasn't moving because, you know, they opened up a new factory over there and there's a whole lot of jobs over there and it's cheaper to live. No, they moved for the deen, right? And so, but nowadays you find very few people who move, uproot their family from one city or one country to the next, or one state to the next, for reasons of deen. Usually, it's for reasons of dunya. And the Prophet ﷺ said that in the hadith of intentions, right? Actually, just by intention, you know. So, one thing that made our Jamaa'ah what it is that they made hijrah for the sake of the hereafter. And what that meant, how that translated for them, is that wherever the Amir, the Sheikh was at, that's where they moved to. Even if it hurt their rank and their wealth or whatever, right? The second is that they chose knowledge and learning over ignorance, because each of them made strenuous efforts. Strenuous efforts in seeking knowledge and acting in accordance to it. It's that talaba, seeking knowledge. A lot of people, they don't make a lot of strong effort to seek knowledge. They don't put no work in. They just, like, let me see if I can Google it. I ain't finding it. Right? That's how we are. Seeking knowledge takes work. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Talabul ilm," seeking knowledge, going after knowledge, sacrificing for the sake of knowledge. The talaba, is it's subhanallah. Because a lot of us seek what we don't find, or our understandings are all not the same. But it's that going after it, that going through trouble, that going through the effort, right? The third is that they chose taqwa over following their passions. For whenever they had a desire for a thing which conflicted with the Sharia, they left it. That's another thing you don't see a lot of times. They chose taqwa. We just defined what taqwa was. Sometimes we want to do something, but we know the Sharia, the Deen is against it. Nowadays, the mindset is there a difference of opinion in that? In other words, what the person is saying, this thing right here, I know it go against the Deen, but I want to do it. Is there a way to halalize it? A way to make it halal so I can do it and have a so-called Islamic excuse for doing it? We don't do that stuff. We know that it's against the Sharia, against the... We didn't try to look for a way to make it halal, look for a loophole, and then claim to be part of that loophole. No, we just leave it. We leave our hawa, for taqwa. Our desires for taqwa. And the fourth is that they chose that which had benefit and well-being over that which is corrupting. For when they loved the thing and did not see it, and they saw that it didn't contain any benefit, they abandoned it. You may want to do something, but there's no benefit in it. It's going to cause problems in the community or whatever. You just leave it. You can find a lot of examples in this. And we're not talking about halal and haram. Because a lot of people, again, we try to use halal and haram to justify things. Sometimes, a sister may want to marry that brother, right? The brother's already married. You know how sisters get when you start talking about polygamy. It's my right and it's his right to want to marry me, right? Whatever. And you'll destroy the whole community and having secret conversations, making stuff look suspicious, and then when you get caught, it's permissible. It ain't about what you're doing, it's how you did it, right? Well, the same thing vice versa. Well, if he still wanted her, he should have stayed married for her. Why he hating? It may not be that he hating. It could be a thing that y'all was best friends, y'all was boys, and all of a sudden you want to act all secretive and cryptic and cut yourself off now that you want to marry the sister. Right? Well, it ain't haram. The way it says haram. I'm talking about, and I'm talking not only from experience, but many different communities. And you find, well, that masjid used to be one masjid, but then it split from that, and it's made two masjids. And then out of those two masjids, they started beefing in that second masjid. Then they broke off and started the Dawah Center. I know a lot of sister cities where this happening. But when you from the outside, you think, oh, because they had difference in manhaj or methodology. No. If you know the people, you talk to the people inside, there's always some personal stuff like that. It's always like, well, they was cool, whatever. But then, that brother married this sister, and that sister used to be married to that brother, so then they stopped speaking, and then whatever. And he was kind of like a teacher, and he was like a leader, so they stopped bumping heads, and then they thought, oh, he did his own thing, whatever. It's the same thing. And you find out that it was a lot of decisions and actions that were being made and taken, and either they did it wrong or they didn't have the well-being of the community at heart when they did it. It was all based upon what they wanted to do personally.
You said they chose the fourth one?
The fourth one,
Excuse you repeat that?
They chose that which has in it the well-being of the community over that which will corrupt it or spoil the community. So when they find something and they didn't see that it contained any benefit, they abandoned it. In other words, the thing that maybe they wanted to do something, it's permissible and all that, you can do it, but they see it wouldn't have been any good for the Jamaa'ah, so they just left it.
Is that another way of saying thinking beyond yourself?
Yes, thinking beyond yourself. A whole lot of stuff is halal. That don't mean we do it, right? He said, realize that what we have mentioned from these virtuous traits applies to the Jamaa'ah with regards to the faithful majority among them. However, this does not preclude that there may be one or two of them or a small number that will act contrary to that. And so this is extremely important in conclusion because Imam Amin out of Atlantic City, good brother, he's doing a video series. Because a lot of imams are talking about, things that will be beneficial to the African American Muslim community. Because a lot of stuff is going on, and it's been going on for a long time, but a lot of people are now just now seeing it. A lot of people looking at us like we an endangered species. We like the mom and pop store in the age of Walmart, Costco's, Target, and everything else. The African American community. And so like a lot of people who don't care and ain't trying to have masters and institutions that cater to our needs. And so a lot of people is having discussions on how to preserve and grow our communities and things like this. And so one of the things that he mentioned in his last broadcast, which kind of made me think about this, because another imam asked him, said, what do we do about apathy? The state of people, people just don't care about knowledge. Like, you want to teach, and everything like this, but people just don't care about knowledge. They just like, huh. And his answer to that is that you have to create a culture of knowledge. And it's not something that's going to take place overnight. If you have one student that's ready to come and learn, teach him or her in the masjid. And it's going to be slow, but people like to be a part of groups. And so you're teaching that one person, another person will get connected to that. Then another person. And keep doing it in the masjid to such an extent that it's normal, it's consistent, and it becomes the culture. And this is why, alhamdulillah, those of us, even today, we're part of the Jamaa'ah of the Shehu. Why? Because the Shehu created this culture. It was based upon knowledge. A lot of people try to base Islamic communities and Jamaats over politics, over, a whole bunch of other stuff, or spirituality. And all of these things are good. We need those components. But of knowledge, if it's not based upon knowledge, you're going to be doing a whole lot of things. You're going to be doing them wrong. And you might, well, with the case with a lot of us, you might be even violating the tenets of our Islam in the process. So I'm saying all of this here, and I mentioned all of these things here, is that, we have to develop this culture of knowledge here. Like, anytime like we are around and we just kicking it, and we talking about knowledge, or doing this class, or doing that class, or increasing our knowledge, anytime someone tries to play that down and be like, oh man, when ain't nobody gonna come? Oh man, we really need to do this. We all need to be like, because that's somebody that's trying to break your momentum. That's just like if someone says, we got all these single sisters out here, sisters need to be married to, ain't enough available brothers, brothers need to start taking on more than one wife. Is somebody going to come and say, oh, but these brothers ain't no good, they don't even take care. Oh, we understand that there's no good brothers, but that doesn't preclude the point that some brothers are qualified and can take care of and fulfill their rights. Why talk about the bad part, right? The same thing you could be saying about brothers who abuse polygyny. There's brothers who abuse monogamy the exact same way. But there's nobody bringing up brothers who abuse monogamy. Say brothers can't afford to take on more than one wife. The same brothers you say can't afford to take on more than one wife, they can't afford to take on one wife. But you're not condemning monogamy though, right? The same brothers that beat their wives in polygamy, they beat their wives in monogamy. But you don't condemn monogamy, right? And you go argument they got against polygyny, you can bring that same argument towards monogamy, but they never bring it up when you talk about monogamy, though, right? And so it's the same thing with seeking knowledge, right? Whenever we talk about or trying to encourage people towards seeking knowledge, someone else going to come up and say something. You need to just ignore that and just see that for what it is. That's just someone who's just trying to cover their own laziness or to cover their own contentment or their own content being ignorant with an excuse or a justification for not seeking themselves or encouraging others to seek knowledge. Anything else before we close out?
It's a question, but I'm gonna start with a statement. I was making salat one time. I was reciting 7 days Marabic Arab. When I read Al-Lavin, I'm gonna say Al-Lavina. So brother correct me. So I made my revision and I saw that he was right. But I want therefore to hear this too. That way, because we work together, with a Salafi brother. And I pay attention. It's like one of the brothers, I told him from the door when we started, I said, I'm not making salat with anybody. If you're going to leave the salat, you don't wash your feet, I don't want to make salat with you. And I think Nas is still not washing his feet. So anyhow, because I'm not a Saudi police, I can't chase him in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But with therefore, sometimes he want to follow that, we should share, you lead today, I lead today. But he doesn't have a problem with assalamu alaikum. Right? So anyhow, one brother, he brought one brother there. When he brought the brother, so I was coming out with some siyasa. Like, you lead the salah, I lead the salah, because I know how they roll.
Yeah.
So he said, lead the salah. So I lead the salah. After Fatiha, I recite, Billahi ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard. The other brother did not say after salah, I didn't hear what you were saying. He said, I didn't hear what you was reciting. Who was you paying attention to? You saw where I'm making salah? So anyhow, I just took the advice and everything. So a couple of nights ago, he came again, Nas brother, right? So by the time they got there, alhamdulillah, I already make Maghrib, and the brother needs salah, Nas following him, he was praying with his shoes on. So I said to myself, you said, you didn't hear it right, but you making salah with your shoe. Who is really wrong here? So my point is, do you think we should follow them for salah if they have their shoes? Like there's no condition or the socks you wash your feet?
You want to answer that?
One would be, is there two questions? One, whether or not you should follow an individual that's wearing shoes, and the other is you should
I'm
follow.
not sure if he wash his feet with the socks or maybe rubber.
Well, one, if you're not sure, then the deen is based on yaqeen.
Okay. With the socks, yes, I'm not sure.
Yeah, good opinion. Concerning an individual praying with shoes, it's not an obligation to take off your shoes. And the prayer is not invalid if one decides to pray with shoes. Although, albeit if it's in the masjid, then it's very important to have and all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? But from my understanding, it doesn't make the salat valid. I mean, one may choose not to just because, you disrespect the masjid or you just, you know what I'm saying? Then I ain't whatever. And it's also not an obligation to pray behind it.
Right.
Because honestly, when it was Isha time, they were still up there, so I had to go downstairs. So I took the sujood and went downstairs and made Isha. Right?
Any other questions? Shukran for everybody for coming out, inshallah. I started a new Telegram group. I invited some of you. It's called Masjid al-Muslim Classes. I know all of you didn't respond to my invitation. When I see that you respond to you on Telegram, I'll add you to the group. And so any videos, because there's a few videos that we put out, like for the Khatib class and stuff like that, they're going to be added to that group, inshallah.
That's a group, or is that like a separate app you have to download?
It's an app, but I made a group within the app. Assalamu alaikum.